Hi, Kim, on the MindSide, Episode 9, a conversation about the mental side of disc golf. Hi, Kim is brought to you by 360 Disc Golf. Welcome to the MindSide. Hi, Kim.
How are you?
I am well. How you been?
Good, good.
Good.
Nice to see you again.
Yeah, likewise. Likewise. How was school?
It's good. It's a lot right now.
Yeah.
I'm in a couple of pretty hard classes that take up to 20 hours a week total, so I'm working on top. But I mean, it's just life.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not bad. It's good for
No,
you, for
yeah,
sure. So, yeah, thank
perfect.
you. Appreciate you taking
Of
the
course,
time because I know you're super busy. That's madness.
it's also this topic is so not controversial, but it's very different for every single person,
Yeah,
and
for sure.
it's the biggest part of the game in my opinion as well. So
Yep.
uh, no,
Yeah, and I definitely wanted to get you on because of where you are in disc golf. Because we can look back at where you came from, who you came up with. You
hmm
came up with, a lot of the really good Northwest disc golfers who are out there. A couple of them are on tour right now. A
hmm
few of them are planning on going on tour, and you um, were right with them, right? And you
yeah,
still have that potential. Being that you are focusing on school right now, which is, it's phenomenal. It's going to build your character. It's going to make it easier for you to pretty much do everything else in life. So you will have a leg up in the long run. But how do you manage kind of seeing them and being where you are in your disc golf journey?
that's a great question actually. I've actually thought about this a lot because I mean I've been competing against what Carter for the last 5 years, Broston for the last 5 years as well, and then you see these new kids like Colin, who is now 1,000 rated at 15, which is insane to think about, especially from the beginning of the season when I when I was competing against him and he was 970 quote unquote, right?
Hmm.
Um, but all those guys and all those people who are going on tour, I feel like I have I thought about it a lot just because that's something I want to work to. That's like an end goal of mine is to try to compete on tour and at the highest level. But I also know that especially now as it's getting a little bit more competitive and there's more money involved and it's getting to a higher standard, that might not as much as I want to believe it, there's always that possibility that I have to go to my backup option. Um, in school can allow that. I like other things. I like other things outside of disc golf, but disc golf is it like it made me have a sense of belonging a little bit more, especially during COVID. And I thought that like I was progressing really well each year, each tournament. I was competing at the highest level, making money in those regional tournaments. Um, and so to go back to your question, I'm happy for all of them, right? They're all doing their best. They're all putting in the effort. Um, but I do have a little bit of regret for not trying as hard the last couple of years to go on there because I feel like doing that stuff would help me, or being more involved, or being in a different state where it doesn't snow for 6 months out of the year, right? It would allow me to progress in disc golf quicker to an extent.
Sure. But you are learning tools that you can take into that world,
Yeah.
and who knows, that might bring you another step closer. But so I guess so with those goals and where you're at now, what are your goals in disc golf?
Um, at the moment, my goals are in disc golf are to go out and compete at the highest level every single weekend when I go out and compete.
Mhm.
Enjoy it as well because for how much I'm working in school at this point, I would like to make money outside of it, but it's also a way for me to have a competitive spirit and something besides my daily activities. And that's where it gets a little bit hard for me because I'm a very competitive guy and I want to win, but I have to also have that mindset of like enjoying it as well. Um, but then for the long run, I would like to get on tour. I would like to tour and play at all those main Elite Series events and the national tour stuff. But that is my thinking with it. My thinking with that is that I have 2 to 4 years left of college, depending on where I go and what I do, and I have to finish that before I go on tour. So I have a little bit of time to work my build up to that standard. But and then also being an ambassador, right? Disc golf is such a good thing for a whole bunch of people,
Mhm.
and I think just being able to share that is also a huge part of a profession, right? And even if I didn't get to play on the pro tour, working in that industry or helping with physical therapy and helping people get better at it would just make me happy as well.
Yeah, definitely. So, how much time do you get to practice?
Ooh, geez, that's a good question. I'd say during the summer, I probably can get five rounds in after work. My work's a little bit staggered, so I can like go 3 hour shifts, or I have like 3 to 5 hour shifts, so I can go work and then go play and then go work. During the winter, it's a little bit different, or during the school year, it's a little bit different because I have school for 4 to 5 hours a day, and then once it starts to get to like October, November area, it's dark out here early. So I'd say maybe 2 rounds maximum, 1 round, and then as soon as snow comes in, I just putt and work on my form. I don't really have an urge to go out and play in 10-degree weather, but
Or
yeah,
yeah, when you come from at least a little bit inclement weather, being from Washington,
yeah.
but I'm sure that's way more drastic.
And it's more of I don't mind the cold, right? I can go out and play in the cold. It's more of like walking through the snow and like wiping your discs off and like making sure you have enough towels or wearing puffer vests and stuff like that. I don't really like playing in those in the first place, so it just depends. I try to get out and at least think about it or practice or do something at least once a week. But right now,
Hmm. Yeah, and that. So, how do you manage the elements when they're impacting? Do you
in general, or just in practice or tournaments or
let's
whatnot.
say in tournament round?
Okay. Well, the biggest thing is you got to check the weather before the tournament. You got to be prepared. If you're not prepared, it's honestly just it drains you. Honestly, if it's a really rainy round and you have and you're like, or really rainy round, or really windy round, or even just like cold, right? You have to, if you're prepared and expect it to happen, it's a lot less of a deciding factor, in my opinion.
Mhm.
At least for my game, right? So like, there's a tournament this March, right? It was up at the fort. It snowed 10 inches overnight, and then like another 6 inches like 2 days later. And I knew that I was going to be freezing, that everybody was going to be dealing with the same
Mhm.
aspects. So I brought like a full extra bag of towels, like hand warmers, gloves, hats, everything like that. And me knowing that that was there, I was able to have a little bit more mental fortitude when going into that tournament. Um, or rain. I mean, it's the same thing with rain, especially being from the Northwest. You got to realize that it's going to happen. You can't like get upset about it. I mean, it's not the best to plan, but it's not the end of the world. So towels, hand warmers, an umbrella, all of that. Um, I honestly think if, as long as you're expecting it and prepared for it, it doesn't affect it as much. It's when it like comes in the middle of the round that it gets really frustrating, or like your chalk bag gets wet or something like that that you didn't expect because you don't have an umbrella, and then your hand starts slipping, and then your discs are all wet, and then you're like 4 over through 3 holes, and you're like, what am I doing? And then that's when it goes downhill.
Yeah, for sure. Preparation is key.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the biggest point out of it.
Yeah. So how do you even find your disc when you're playing in 14, 15 inches of snow?
It wasn't that much during the actual tournament, but when I do go out there, I try to only throw red or blue or like bright colored discs, right? And then I also
Yeah, because you
like
can't
I
like
don't.
tape a string to it like you do in casual rounds.
No, you can't. That's just the unfortunate factor if you lose it.
Yeah.
I normally like, and then you also, when there's a lot of snow, you can like gently brush your foot over all the grass or whatever you're playing on, and hopefully find it that way. But bright color discs are the biggest thing because, and then watching your entire flight, and not getting frustrated or like that's a good shot, I don't need to find it like in normal tournament rounds. So
Sure. Yeah, and
yeah.
yeah, it goes back to it is what it is. Kind of
Mm-hmm.
just have to deal with it. But other than just that, you just got to deal with it. How or what are some techniques that you will use in round if, let's say, you do lose your disc? Just you landed in the middle of the fairway and now it's gone. And how does that happen? You know what I mean? Or just whatever
Yeah.
happens outside of you. How do you
Mm-hmm.
manage those influences?
Um, well, I mean, you're gonna get frustrated either way about that. Most people will. It's how you can say it is what it is, but most people, including myself, will be like, that sucks. Like the world, like the round's just against me, you know. And it's not how in my opinion, it's not how that goes through. Like you can be really frustrated for a little bit and be like, and like get frustrated and like talk to yourself quietly, right? But it's after that, it's how you respond. Then it's like after that 20, 30 seconds of like, this sucks, how you can compose yourself and rethrow the next shot. Or like, if you like, if you can't find your disc and you have to go back, rethrow it, and then you took a double bogey, right? And you were like close to the lead. Um, how you can respond to that next shot on the tee, or how you can respond to that hole on the next tee shot. Like you're plenty. All of us are plenty good enough to be throwing these shots consistently, right? It's just how you see the shot go in your mind. There was an example during the same tournament. Um, the caddy book said that we weren't playing a certain hole, but it was in between 2 holes, and it wasn't marked off or anything like that. There was like no T signs or anything like that saying that it was closed. Um, we played it, right. We all took a 2-stroke penalty,
Hmm.
and I mean, honestly, the rest of my card, they weren't playing too great in the first place, and they were even more frustrated about it than I was. And I was, I mean, I was in contention for like top 3 or 4, and it took 2 strokes, and it dropped me down to fifth. I think I was third, and it dropped me down to fifth or something like that, right? And I lost like $150 off of that. And I mean, I was the only one. I mean, I complained for a little bit, right? Because I'm like, oh, that's stupid. The preparation wasn't there, right? But I'm like, well, I birdied 4 out of the last 5 holes. So I mean, it was just sort of how I was actually proud about that, because normally that would really upset me.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like how I came back. And I think that's the biggest key. It's how the next shot goes, right?
Sure.
Because if that next shot, if you don't do well with that, it's a round changer, right? But if you do well with that, it's sets yourself up for at least a little bit of success.
Yeah.
So it's
So
yeah.
so when you are in those moments where you do have to overcome a little bit, is there
Mm-hmm.
anything that you will do physically or some reoccurring thoughts that will help you get through those moments or
Yeah.
get through it? Not?
Yeah. I think the biggest one is deep breaths,
Mm.
right? I mean, it helps everybody, even when you say it doesn't. Taking a couple of big deep breaths and just self centering a little bit more. is a big thing. Um, I've also started just talking to myself a little bit, like under my breath, and being like, like just explaining why I'm frustrated
Hmm.
and like why it doesn't matter that much. And like after that one shot, which actually really helps because it feels like I can like saying it out loud sort of allows me to be like, okay, it's not the end of the world. There's plenty of holes left most of the time. Um, of course, there's always gonna be a little bit of like I have in the past, I don't know, like the 2020 season, 2021 season, I was a little bit of a hothead. I won't like do anything super physical, but like I had a couple whale sacks I've ripped before. I mean, I try not to do that anymore, of course, right? But it's just like doing something to release a little bit of that tension really helps. Um, it did, but I mainly now I try to just take a deep breath, be like, all right, next shot. I'm trying the it's like the 10-second rule. It's like after you think about it, after it's gone through your head, take a couple deep breaths, start talking with your teammates again, everything like that, and then just next shot.
Yep, exactly. And that's key. You have to,
Mm-hmm.
because you
Yeah,
can only be where you are, right?
yeah.
There's no going back. So I think that maybe we could talk more of this off camera, but I think that you need to approach whale sacks. You need to at least get a promo code, and you need
Yeah,
to push the rip a whale sack for your psyche promo, and
that's a
then
great promotion.
you
I
may
like
get a
that.
few extra bucks that way.
I
So
like that.
yeah, okay. So we'll each get a promo code.
Right.
Yeah.
Um, what I will say is that me saying this, it's a lot easier to say this than it is to do it, especially at the moment. I think most people who play disc golf can agree with that, or any sports in general, right? You can say this, you can preach it, but translating those things into an actual round is like not super difficult. But you have those other little thoughts inside your head during the actual round that doesn't help it as much. So
Yeah, and it just takes repetition, just like anything else, and
yeah.
awareness, and
Hmm.
that's kind of the hardest part, and that's where this interview show thing is coming from. Is
Yeah.
you can be aware of your mind, and you can control it, and you can overcome it, or you can allow it to overrun you and everybody else on your card, even. You know,
Hmm.
so yeah, I don't know, and it's a fun thing to talk about and a fun thing to think about, and you can apply it to everything else in life, and you can learn from everything else in life and apply that to it as well. So on that note, what are some of the key things that you can take from being as busy and as stressed as you are now and apply that to your disc golf game in the future, be it on the course or be it, let's say, marketing, business side, promotion, whatever?
Hmm.
What are you learning now that you can take into the future for disc golf?
Um, so the biggest one right now is I'm technically pre physical therapy. Um, so that's like just uh, fixing things that are broken pretty much without being a doctor. I
Mhm.
mean, you are technically, but so the biggest one is like stretching and breathing mechanics and how your brain thinks and how it and like how neurons do things. That's one of the classes I'm learning about, right? So the stretching and stuff is big, right? Or the physical aspect of it is big.
Yeah.
The other one
I will
is
I will repeat that because I have tendonitis. So I will say that stretching is gigantic, but sorry to interrupt you.
no, go, that's fine. And then the second one is also networking. Um,
Hmm.
Not just on the business aspect of things, but just in general, knowing people and not being afraid to talk to people is something I'm learning right now will probably be the biggest thing that I like take away from my college experience.
Hmm.
Um, I was I'm looking for internships right now, and I'm sort of exploring and just talking to as many people as I can has been like the biggest factor of that, and I think that helps in marketing and business as well, but it also helps just in life. And I mean, even to the disc golf side of things, right? If you know people and if you know that they have like a good word on you, it's a lot easier to get. It's a lot easier to be a part of things that way than it is to just be like, "Hello, my name's Kai. I'm 990 rated, right? I think I'd be a great fit." It's a lot easier when you have somebody who's high up on that said team or in any sort of business in the disc golf industry. Um, and then marketing wise, business wise, not too much right now. I've just learned to put myself out there, which I mean, I guess goes along with networking, but I think it's a different aspect of it because promoting your own brand and then knowing people are the two biggest things in disc golf if you're good enough, in my opinion. So
Yeah, I would agree. I think that'll take you a long way, no matter where you end up. Other than just going to school and being super busy and practicing, is there anything specific that you will work on for your mind? Or is there anything in your physical therapy that you have learned, I don't know, about the mind that can help this golf?
maybe not directly help with the mind. Um, I've been, funny enough, I'm having my own come to Jesus moment right now, right? And I'm becoming religious. And the biggest thing, not
Mm,
pushing anything on anybody, right? But the biggest thing is just just being calm, right? And that comes from anywhere, right? But I
mm,
found it through that, and I think thinking about that and also I've also met a lot of people here that aren't as fortunate as me to be doing what I'm doing right now.
mm,
And so even when I'm going out on the disc golf course and I'm frustrated at myself, I realize that there's always next week, there's always next month to improve on what I'm doing. Um, and I always have high expectations for myself, right? That's like like I've always been competitive. I've always wanted to be the best at what I do. Um, but the underlying aspect of it being, I don't. This one tournament isn't going to determine my future. Is what I'm trying to work on, and taking the 6 months off of tournament play at least for disc golf has really made me think about how not or how unimportant it is to play well at every single tournament. You know, I've I've found other things in life, but I mean, just being able to go in with a calm mind and leave with a calm mind, whether or not you play really well or really bad, is like what I'm trying to work on right now.
mm.
And through breathing and just like focusing on other things has helped me with that. So hopefully that helps me next season. Um, I think I'm going to come out with a little bit less of or a more nonchalant attitude,
Yeah,
but
and
I mean,
yeah. I think inner peace goes a long way, right? Because it
yeah,
sounds like that's what you're working on.
yeah,
And so what? It's funny you said a come to Jesus moment, and I was like, oh, okay, what kind of? But literal come to
yeah,
Jesus moment. Yeah, no,
yeah.
that's so. So what has that change in, I guess, psyche or change in thought process? Um, Finding more grounded thoughts in religion. How has that, I guess, just helped you across the board in, I guess, your mental state?
Yeah, I think the biggest one is realizing I'm not alone, right? I've always had this, I mean, realistically, even when I was 14, 15, when I started playing, it's like disc golf wasn't that big. Disc golf, like having a profession in it, and before it, even when I started playing, having a profession in it didn't mean much at all, right? I mean, for the most part, they made money, but not like the top 5, 10 players made a lot of money. Everybody else was slowly coming up, and now that it's gaining a little bit more interest and more sponsors and more money, um, it's a little bit more of a profession to think about if you're good enough for it, right? Um, but it's a very traditional path to take, and there's people who doubt it. I mean, even yourself sometimes,
Mhm.
you're like, what do I want to do with this? But having the sense that you're not alone and that people are supporting you, not just your family and your friends, but like just having that underlying sense for me that I'm not the only person doing this and that people are just going to be there for me even if I don't do it, really helped me realize that it's not the end of the world to play bad at each tournament, you know? I wanted to go out every weekend, especially like the 2021-2022 season. I wanted to go out every single weekend, prove that I was one of the best people that played in the tournament, right? And like if I didn't, I'd be furious at myself. I'd be like, why didn't you play better? What could you do to do better? And now it's like, go back to the drawing board. I don't have to worry about my self doubt as much anymore. Whereas like now it's more like just self improvement a little bit, and it's like, how can I do these things differently, or how can I approach like an upshot differently, or how can I like think about the strategy of the game without getting really really frustrated on myself. I think the idea is like I went from self doubt to self improvement after the tournaments, and that's what's really helped me. At least the last couple of tournaments of the season before I stopped, really helped me perform at a higher ish level.
That's great to hear.
Yeah.
Good work. Well, I think we'll let you get back to school and the grind, and yeah, if
Thank you.
head up here to the Northwest, you know, hit us up.
Yeah.
Preston's still in Arizona, but you know, we'll we'll do what we can. But yeah, I
I
wish you
heard.
all the best and everything.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm glad you guys are back out in Washington. It sounds like you guys are having a good time out there. So,
Yeah, we needed to get back.
in terms of that, aren't you guys doing like a huge clinic in the next couple of weeks, or was that last week?
It's coming up in a couple weeks, but that'll be once this comes out, that will have already happened. But yeah, we're doing a clinic at Stilicone. So
Okay,
it should
gotcha.
be, it
I
should
heard.
be fun.
I saw that on Facebook, and I was just curious. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. If
um,
you head back, hit me up.
yeah, absolutely. Thank
Cool.
you for allowing me to talk.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for joining. Appreciate you, and best of luck.
Yeah,
Take care, Kai.
yeah, yeah. See you, Chris.
All right, see ya. Thank you for watching or listening to this episode of The MindSide. Episode 10 is coming soon with Leah Sinogeny.